Good afternoon. How you doing? Sorry about that. I knocked my microphone, which hit the keyboard, which changed the scene. Always goes so smoothly. You should be used to that by now. Anyway, hope everyone's well. I don't think this is a weird time of day, so it might be just mostly replays. So that's cool. So anyway, let's joke and say it's going to be a quick one. Is it going to be a quick one? Probably not. But I always intend for it to be a quick one. And that's the main thing. Now, hopefully, having ironed out some of the problems, I can stream at 1080p. Let's hope for the best. 4K, you're dreaming, but it'd be good if it was 1080p, but that's okay. So, hang on 1 second. Still haven't fixed my microphone stand, by the way, because we have to move house again now. Motherfucker. Seriously, have to move again. This fucking market. Anyway, whatever. So, you'll see, I've just got things the way that I want. Things are just working. Finally have the tech and the lights and the thing and the thing and the thing. Everything laid out the way I want. Guess what? Got to move. That's the market for you. That's kind of related. It is kind of related to what I want to talk about today, which is this idea that somehow, if we did the right thing, like we did all these things in good faith, okay, so we were promised that, if you did made X, Y, Z choice, there'd be this outcome, okay? I know life's not that simple, okay? I get that. I'm not an idiot. I also understand that, capitalism is what capitalism is. That's fine. But at the same time, there's a little part of me, and I know everyone goes through this. Okay? I'm not saying I'm the only one. But there's a big part of me, especially as I sort of start to really flesh out some of the stuff and the history of the internet and what was promised and, what the trade-offs we made were. And that is very much linked to home ownership, because what I did over the years was that I was promised there was again, it wasn't an explicit, we will give you this. There's this implied contract, implicit contract, that happens here. And that is that if you take a risk, okay, and you pursue self-employment, or you put off certain things like home ownership, okay, because in Australia particularly, if you're self-employed, the threshold for home ownership is quite high, versus if you're like a 9-to-5 person, it's quite easy. All you need is a full-time job and a little bit of a deposit, and sort of you're free and clear, right? And so there was a time when I was working full-time and we looked at a mortgage. We were young and had young babies, right? Me and my ex-husband. And we looked at building. And, we ended up not sort of pursuing that route because we thought we had time. Okay. I did self-employment and there was this implied contract. Again, I'm not saying I'm owed anything. I'm just saying there's an implied contract. It was sort of my expectation going in. And if I had known sort of the penalty, and this is related to anonymity, I'm going to get there, which is that people who have always done the right thing are now penalized. Okay, that's if you're one of those people that needs a 7-minute fucking summary of where this is going, that's what I'm saying. Okay, it's where I'm going. It's a generational thing, but it's also about anonymity, and it's also kind of a bigger deal about, is it okay to do something in good faith and then have a bait and switch, and then when you complain about it, you're kind of punished or being, it's anyway, that's where I'm going. So it's not unrelated to home ownership, which is that we both, my second husband and I, were both interested in sort of self-employment. We sort of bought the hustle Kool-Aid, right? This idea that if you try hard enough and you're self-employed and you work hard, eventually someone will notice that talent, or eventually someone will notice that you're working hard. Eventually that will get some recognition. Eventually, if you just keep twisting and turning and pivoting and trying to get like a product that has demand, like has customers, if you get your UVP right, your value proposition, if you get your elevator pitch right, if you lean in, if you go to networking things and you go to all those things and you do all of this work and you work around the clock and you don't spend time with your children and you don't do that stuff and you reject that 9-to-5 life. The implied contract there is that you're going to at least have something at the end of it, which is that if you sort of forego that 9-to-5 life, you forego that opportunity cost. There's that thing where it's like, okay, all right, I'm going to not buy a house because if I do this business thing, because it's all merit, okay, if you work harder and you're kind and you do the right thing and you do favors and you give discounts and you do all those things, okay, eventually at the end of it, you'll still make a good profit and then eventually you'll be able to buy a house, okay? That dangles that fucking carrot, right? And if you go back, and it's the same thing with the internet, which is that you're sort of nudged in a certain direction to make certain choices and you make good faith choices, okay? So a decision that I made very early on, even when things were anonymous, I never, not fully anonymous, like you'd only have a username and you didn't have to use your full name and all that sort of stuff. It was just a username and you're anonymous. It was never a secret who I was, okay? My username, the Taylor, has always just been my first name and Louise is my middle name. And I always believed that, first of all, it had a layer of accountability in it, okay? So everything that I said was never a secret. Everything that I said I would back and be held to account for. Everything I did, it was the right thing to do. It held me to account. And also I thought that it gave me some sort of credibility, okay? And the problem is, and I'm sure that a lot of people who also decided to not be anonymous early on, like again, yes, it was somewhat anonymous. Okay, I still had a username, but it was never a secret. So I benefited from that sort of somewhat, anonymous stuff with the online diary and stuff. No one was on the internet. It was just, I've often joked. I said I was on the internet because I wanted my secret, or, I wanted to keep a secret. I wrote it on the internet, which in retrospect sounds fucking stupid. But if you're old school, you know what I'm saying, right? There was no one else on there except for like weird ass worldwide people, okay, who were in the same position, who were sort of somewhat anonymous, but not really anonymous. And what frustrates me is that now, in this whole sort of hell versus blue check bully, stop hitting yourself fucking landscape that we're in, I am punished for that, okay? So I have to pay the penalty for everything I've ever said, everything I've ever done, everyone I've ever annoyed, every customer I've ever fucked up with, because, in business you do fuck up. every fucking thing I've been through in my life is there. Okay. But what I also know is that a whole bunch of these blue checks on Twitter, okay, there's one in particular, okay, Mr. Bernard Keane. I'm going to name it, fuck it. Clem Ford, Bernard Keane. A lot of these Australian people, right? I happen to know that they were on websites, shit posting websites, and actually, in Bernard's case, set up websites under anonymous usernames, okay, that were designed to bully and harass people. But they sort of decoupled from that and used that. But they're now turning around, okay, and they get this life and they get this sort of, they get to separate from that previous online behavior. And then they get to turn around on people like me and hold us to account for shit they did under anonymous usernames, but we did under our real names. And I get to have to pay the price. Okay. This is the thing that I feel a little bit, honestly, a bit shitted off about. Okay. Now, there's always going to be some smart ass in the back of the room that says, well, you should have known better. Okay. But what you will know is, if you've been on the internet for quite a while now, is that Google and Facebook did initially try to improve health and improve internet health and, prevent trolls and all that sort of shit, okay, by implementing real name policies. Now, obviously, that's not a viable solution because there are people that genuinely need to be anonymous, especially, around the world in non-democratic governments, right? Including the United States. It's turning out that including the United States. Okay. It's important for dissent. But at the same time, there's a part of me that sits there and goes, you know what? I did the right thing. I did the evidence-based thing. I did what I thought was best. I used my real name. I went viral under my real name. Everything I did is under my name. I've very rarely been anonymous, and when I have, it's been like a one-off because I lose interest and whatever, okay? But generally speaking, I've had to pay the price for everything I've ever said, everything I've ever done, everything I've signed up for, everything I have tweeted. All of it is there with my real name. It has been attached to my business. It's been attached to my livelihood. It's been attached to my ability to fucking get a loan. It's now, Equifax. Now, not Equifax. Yeah, Equifax, the credit reporting people, link to your Facebook. Facebook know your credit rating, okay? They also know your Facebook activity in the opposite direction, okay? These things exist. When we've operated in good faith, we've used our real names, okay? And what I see is a whole bunch of people that I used to hang out with on certain forums who get to distance themselves from all this shit and then shit on people like me. And allow people like me to be deboosted or, suppressed or made, all of that sort of stuff when I know that they were actually really so much worse than anything I ever did. Okay. And that's the thing that I think needs a conversation, which is that there's a whole class of old internet trolls who were anonymous and are now quite high profile. They use the internet to leverage a fucking deal for themselves. Okay, people like Clem Ford and those people who are pretty horrible, and I know that they were anonymous, and I know what their usernames were, and I can fucking tell you what they were. Okay, and I can link that, but because I'm not an asshole and a decent person, not like them. Okay, I just sit there and I watch this happen, and I go, you know what? I did the right thing. Did all the right things. I might say the wrong thing sometimes. I might swear a bit too much. I might be wrong about certain things, okay? I might be going off about something that I'm wrong about in that moment. But do you know what? My name's on it. And that's my cross to bear, okay? But I don't see others who are in this position, especially in media, who are paying any price for their conduct when it was 10 times worse than mine. And, and that warrants a conversation about anonymity and whether this purest idea, okay, of, anonymity needs to have a conversation around it because, again, it's not just about me, okay. We had a bunch of ideals about the internet. And the problem is that they're ideals, okay. In practice, Anonymity makes it difficult to detect bots, okay, because it's hard to tell the difference between a really smart bot and a dumbass human, okay? These are the problems that we've got. Troll farms. Easy to register anything, any account under any username for anything. It's frictionless, okay? So that's one problem, is that it's actually just easy. There's no friction, there's no checks, there's nothing. Now, that has a benefit to it. There's a cost and a benefit. We've got to weigh this stuff up, and this is what I'm thinking about. And again, I'm not advocating banning anonymous accounts. What I am advocating for is that those who use their real names get rewarded for it. Okay, and don't get put in the fucking naughty pile with a bunch of fuckwit bots, while people that I was hanging out with and have managed to, like, you know, distance themselves from all this shit that they did too, and now have media careers, okay? That's the thing that I'm talking about, where there's this lack of balance and I'm being punished, okay? I'm deboosted on Twitter. I'm like all of these things because all I've ever done is use my real name. And because I swear, oh my God, call the fucking police on that one, okay? So I suppose that's really kind of the context of where I'm coming from. But I'm not advocating for censorship. But the problem is I tend to be anti-censorship. But when I think about it, I'm probably more anti-censorship when you're a person. I'm fine with, if you're anonymous, I think that that's one of the trade-offs that you should make, is that you're likely to be censored. What I'm seeing with social media is that it is unworkable with no censorship. It's horrible. The experience is fucking horrible. If you turn, like, again, you just look at fucking Gab. They're horrible places to be, especially for women, especially for LGBT people, especially for sort of, you know, anyone like that, anyone who's not a fucking troll white man 4chan fuck. They own the platforms in that regard, okay? We have to acknowledge that free speech, there's a trade-off between free speech and experience. And as an experienced designer, I'll say, I know what puts people off. And if they turn up to Minds is all right. It's actually not too bad. But if you turn up to like Gab or anything like that, fucking Getter, any of those networks, they're horrible. The experience is unpleasant, which means also, okay, there's some rules here, there's some laws here, people won't come back as much. Okay? It's just, if it's so off-putting, this is the conflict that we've got, which is, okay, well, it's always fucking America that does it. It's always America that fucks it up for everyone else. American Supreme Court on American tech. So the American Supreme Court has ruled several times in favour of making sure that anonymity is protected. Okay? In this instance, I'm not talking about whistleblowers, okay? They're kind of a unique, separate thing. But you can't pretend to me that Tedious Bro and his sexist shit should have the same protection as a whistleblower, okay? Trolls should not have the same protections as whistleblower. We've figured that out in law, okay? We figured that out in terms of process through the legal system, in various countries. So we should be able to figure it out online, which is that this is the problem with America. They're fucking binary. 1, 0, 1, 0. You're for or against, for or against, for or against. I should be able to sling my dick wherever I want. But also, I make the fucking thing so unpleasant that no one else wants to use it. And anything that acknowledges that is censorship. It's like, well, no, that's not the case. Okay. We're trying to solve the problem here, which is to keep as many people happy as possible. Now, for me, this is the question that I'm asking, is about anonymity and whether we have to kind of have a discussion about where we compromise on that. Because it's kind of a pillar of, the internet. And that's the question that has been running through my mind lately, which is that too many people get away with shit under anonymity and they're rewarded for it. It's considered, acceptable. And then there's people like me who've never been anonymous, who've done the right thing, that pay a lot of the price for this, and then we get shit for it. Then you turn up and use the fact that you've got your real name to defend the anonymous fucks, and they insult you anyway. So what's the point? You sit there and you go, okay, well, why do I do this? What's in it for me? Nothing is in this for me. The best thing I could do right now is change my fucking name, move on, and go anonymous and disappear. Okay? But I don't. I push through it and I face it and I lean into it in the real way. And, it's just like, okay, well, all right, what do I do? Do I tell everyone's username in a spreadsheet about what they did, leaving me to fucking hold the bag? Do we make sure that this is in terms of policy, that if you are a verified person with a driver's license and you can with identification, because also that you cannot be manipulated or suppressed or fucked with, you get verified and you get a layer. There needs to be something in it for someone to stay on the internet with their real name now. There needs to be something. There is no incentive to do it. And that's the question is, okay, well, we know that these fucking online mobs aren't going anywhere. We know that, whether it's fucking MAGAs or woke fucks, there's always going to be someone, or troll farms in my case, there's always going to be someone pouring through your old shit to try and destroy you. So that's one thing. So that's something we know is going to continue because tech aren't going to deal with it, right? They're not going to deal with it. And it's just, there's too much money in it. That's one thing we know. The other thing we know is that there's people who need legal protection, okay, because they need that anonymity, okay, and also for uncomfortable conversations or conversations that, might be very personal or those sorts of things, that anonymity needs to be protected. But it doesn't need to be rewarded. And I think that that's the problem that we've got, is that there's something broken in the experience. There is something broken. I feel like this might, and again, this is what a user experience person would say, which is that we've got a design problem. But I think we do, which is that with an anonymity, first of all, it's too easy to be anonymous. Okay. I would say that if someone was going to sign up with an anonymous account, that you at least onboard them somehow. Okay. Have some sort of onboarding process about, what this means. And that means telling them that if you're anonymous, you're not going to get seen as much. Your reach will reduce. Okay. If you're not anonymous and you have a website and you have a driver's license and you give that driver's license, they cannot do fuck all to you. That should be a thing. Okay. So it's not so much about censoring, okay, anonymous accounts. I'm talking about experience design. So those who are familiar with shadow banning and that concept means that you just won't get as much reach. At the moment, I'm the one who's being punished and not getting reach. That's bullshit. Okay, because again, like I said, the people who I know were bullies who hid behind pseudonyms are now carving a nice little career for themselves, while people like me are sitting fucking having to, dig through that because we weren't anonymous. Okay. The other thing that we need to balance is obviously the law, okay, which is that most countries, most Western countries at least, have protections for whistleblowers and anonymous accounts. But there should be a process for that. This is where Twitter, if you're signing up and you are a whistleblower, then there is a process for you, which is that you sign up and declare that you're a whistleblower, and you've got to go through some sort of process there. Now, again, that would require us to trust Twitter and Facebook. But the thing is, they know who we are anyway, right? They know everything about us. I can't see how verification, or giving a, sorry, I had a fizzy water, a bit of a burps. But I can't see how that would be, again, those privacy concerns around ID, they already know who you are. They get away from that. So that horse is bolted. There's certain things where the horse is bolted, so we maybe need to change the way that we approach this stuff. So again, I think that maybe for a healthier internet, again, there's going to be fringe. I'm not talking about fringe communities. I'm just talking about communities in the mainstream. Okay. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, big four. Okay. Fisher Price internet people, which is that you can just sign up under any name. LinkedIn, not so much. Facebook, not so much. Facebook does it, but they don't enforce it very, very much. Okay. But Twitter in particular, like you can just sign up an account with no onboarding. There's no, you can just have a checkbox. It's like, I want to be anonymous. I'm a whistleblower. Yes, please. And it tells the algorithm this. And yes, there'll be bad guys that abuse that stuff, but at least what it will do is at some point it will be that those who are at least using their real names and operating in good faith, especially those who did this like pre-2012, people who always used their real name, like me, who have a well and truly established, credible like presence online with my name, okay, that we're not suppressed. That's bullshit. Okay, that's not fair. That wasn't what we were told was okay. It wasn't the deal. And like the fact that this is now weaponized against us, well, that's bullshit. Twitter needs to get their shit together and start engaging people like me. They won't. They won't. What they'll do is engage the people who had anonymous accounts and still do have troll accounts and have alts and harass people via old accounts. Not people like me who just do the right thing and lean in and say whatever the fuck they want, whether it means, being on the paper or going viral or being ignored or whatever. We've got to live with that stuff. And that's the thing that I think, again, I'm not really here to educate you on the actual issues, but there's history here. So Google have tried to implement these things. They failed, okay? You can't exactly do that because ultimately it'd probably be considered unlawful anyway, okay? But what I'm saying is from a design point of view, what we could do is reward those who do the right thing more than we punish those who don't, okay? Because eventually, you should still punish people who are acting in a certain way. But again, I sit in that sort of fault line with Twitter and these platforms where all I've ever done is just told the truth. And yes, I know the truth is fucking dangerous, but I don't do it anonymously. Right? Why the fuck do I have to argue with anonymous dickheads on my YouTube channel who won't even use their name while I'm using my name? Why is that showing up in my experience? And why can't I opt out of that? Why can't I opt out of interacting with anonymous accounts? Why don't you put that in the hands of the user? Okay. Why do I have to receive that nonsense? Why can't I go, you know what? I only want to talk to people who are people. And who I know who they are. They've got their name and they're verified in that sense. I don't see how this is an issue. Okay, I don't see how this is a problem. It shouldn't be controversial. That the user should be able to decide what they receive and what they don't receive, and what they see and don't see. Okay, and this is an easy thing to implement. The only thing that I can actually, the only reason that they wouldn't implement this is because it's profitable. Okay, if you are a journalist and if you turn on that setting that you don't want to hear from anonymous accounts, what that does is it disincentivizes the troll farms, it disincentivizes the sort of the mobbing, it disincentivizes the fucking turf swarm, it disincentivizes all of that because you just go, I don't want to see it. That whole industry goes dead. And I imagine that they spend quite a bit of money with Twitter. Okay. Again, these networks, you've got your white hat stuff and your black hat stuff. And they're fucking, most of these agencies will have different organizations to do the same work, but just some are a little darker than others. So there's money in it. Okay. It wouldn't surprise me if, like these massive corporations, these PR firms, those people, they offered that, they probably say that if this happens, Twitter's clearly not doing what they need to do to deal with the bot situation, okay, and the troll farm situation. And it's not just a simple matter of, the AI is not smart enough, therefore. It's like, no, you could easily implement a solution where you open up verification. Even if it's not a blue check public figure, you could have a green check. Okay, it's not difficult to implement. This person is who they say they are. This is their name. They have their website. And then they become, you cannot you onboard them and say, this is the code of conduct. This is how you're expected to operate. If you do that, you're fine. Leave you alone. Okay? There needs to be that. There needs to be something there like that. Okay? It's not a difficult fucking problem, this one. Okay? That's the funny thing about engineers is that it's like, yeah, let's just keep like running and spinning our wheels with AI and seeing if we can fucking up. It's like, no, it's a design thing. Create a checkbox, couple of checkboxes. If you're feeling extra fancy, you could use some sort of, a radio button that looks pretty, real hard. Okay. And you could hire a team of a handful of people whose job it is to onboard, much like you do with your blue checks, onboard all these people, onboard advertisers, whatever. Okay. And you go, okay, well, what do you want to see? Do you want to see, and you assign people, they go, do you want to go through this process, upload your ID, takes a day, okay, done. Then from the experience angle, you can go, I only want to speak to people who are using their real names. You kill the troll farms, you kill the bots in a fucking instant, okay? And then you leave the people into cesspool Twitter and anonymous Twitter. And then what you could do is you could actually have some sort of special process for, people who actually have a political reason for anonymity. Okay? Not difficult. It's not fucking difficult. But that requires thinking. It requires there's a concept in politics called, you need the political will, okay? Twitter needs the political will, okay, or enough pressure, or the business trigger, okay, for this to be necessary. But I think maybe that they've probably run the numbers on it, because I imagine that, it's come up before. This is just basic UX shit, okay? So obviously, if they haven't implemented it by now, there's probably a business reason for it, which means that it's probably the bunch of PR firms that do all this troll farm shit to journalists and harassing people like me and making sure that everyone's life is hell also happen to be the wallets for advertising, and they go, nah. Again, they know these things. Again, I'm not making claims like that. I'm just saying what I see from the outside. Why they're not implementing this solution, I have no idea. But, signing up to mines has been interesting because I've been, again, you get the fucking dickheads. Then they show up on your YouTube. They're all anonymous, by the way. They just make these claims. Like, everyone's a millionaire when they not have their real name on things. Have you noticed that? Everyone's got 7 houses. Everyone's super successful when they're anonymous. Okay? And then they sit there insulting people like me who have just been honest about everything they've ever done in their life. Nothing but honest and open and transparent. And they get to turn up in my mentions, and they get to turn up in my comments, and they get to fucking sit there and they get to make extraordinary claims. They get to have no fucking, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Remember that thing? Okay? But they can just say these things. They don't have any evidence. They can't back it. And it just, again, it ruins my day because these things take time. Okay? And that's the thing, is that when you have to deal with this stuff, it takes your time, it takes your energy, to argue with these fucking Lindsay bros. It's just like, no, I'm not doing it. Pay me to do that. Okay? You want to commission some writing? Go for it. But again, these anonymous accounts are partially the problem, where they can just say whatever the fuck they want. Also, troll farms will fuck with you. They'll just harass you. They will send you, and if they're sending shit to me, I can only imagine what they're sending to children who are online, who are being fucking, like all of this stuff. I showed you in that previous video how easy it is to just get someone to, create social proof on Twitter. Okay. This is sort of the thing that I'm wondering, like old school internet people, old school, is, that is it really this sacred? Like the United States, they sit there and they, there's certain things that are sacred and untouchable. It's like, well, times have changed. I mean, free speech is that, yes, it's a principle, but it's a principle from when we didn't have these problems, okay? And they're also ideals, okay? Shit gets more complicated, okay? It's not that simple. When you're harassing people, it's not free speech, okay? Same with guns. Like, these things you didn't have semi-automatic weapons, okay? You didn't have nuclear bombs. You didn't have fucking, the kinds of weapons and the velocity and the scale. And that when I talk about internet anonymity and whether we need to let go, some of the internet activists need to let go of some of these ideas. I'm not saying they're not ideals. I'm not saying they're not good. I'm not saying they're not perfect. But I think that the problem with, especially with fucking America, most of us learn from America and go, well, if you write it down, there's going to be a bunch of people who will never compromise on it again. Okay, that's what we've learned, is that the law is more flexible if you don't write stuff in your constitution. Tends to be a bit more flexible when times change. A lot of America's problems are around that, is the fact that their constitution has stuff in it that's out of date. Okay. So, but, this internet anonymity, surely this is a design problem that we can fix. And I know that it is. Unfortunately, I just don't think that Twitter have the incentives in place to do so. But with places like Minds, we do, okay? With new platforms, this is something that you can build in. And what it does is it also provides reassurance for new users that, while they're familiarizing themselves with the platform, they're not going to receive this horrible MAGA horse shit that everyone has to deal with 24/7, okay? The problem with Trump, I think most people who are on the internet, in like when Trump got elected and post-Trump, I left Twitter. I was like, that guy's a fuckhead. And when he got censored, I was like, you know what? I don't agree with it, but I'm fucking happy. I think we can all concede that Twitter's slightly better without that fuckhead and his like legion of dickheads, okay? And this is what I'm talking about, is that it's not just about conduct, because for me, every time I keep getting caught in this like reply function thing where I'm just saying something and then you get a suspension and then you get strikes. And it's like, hang on a minute. That's bullshit. Why am I held to the same conduct rules for something innocuous as a bot would be? I'm not harassing anybody. I'm replying and I just fucked up. And that's sort of the, that angle where it's like there needs to be, I'm generally against this sort of caste system online, but at the same time, like, again, being punished is bullshit. Okay. So anyway, that was all I really wanted to say. The time of day where it's quite quiet. Also, the lighting's bad this time of day, so I apologize, but that's okay. Yeah, that was a short one. It was actually shorter than usual. And if you fuckheads who went and got like all of this success, and when I know what you did, I know that you are hiding, and I know your fucking skeletons about, with certain people who literally like set up communities designed to harass people and particularly harass women and turn up on their like blogs and turn up on mine as well, okay, and like harass everybody and like openly defame people. And meanwhile, they just walk away and go, well, we should send a hate speech. We should censor those people because they're bad. It's like, hang on a hot fucking second. I remember. I don't forget these things. I remember when you harassed me. I remember when you harassed a bunch of my friends. I remember when my friends had to get an AVO out on you. Okay? And yet somehow, because you were anonymous, you get away with it and I'm punished. Fuck you. Where's my blue check? And, it's like, fuck this shit. Anyway, I'm going to go rambling, going in circles. I could have said it in 15 minutes, but, I'm me. Okay, thanks for watching. Thank you for precious 5 seconds. If you want to support me, you can go to Patreon, go to my website. Okay, same old shit. I know everyone's like, with the inflation and everything, like I just don't expect that stuff. And the 1% don't like what I've got to say. And people with money don't like what I've got to say. So it is what it is. But if you want to consult on shit, I'll do consulting too. I'm going to go. I love you. Thank you for your precious life seconds. All that stuff. Be back soon. Probably Monday. We have to move house again, so I'm not sure. Depends on when we got fucking house inspections again. Oh my God. All right. If you're rich and you want to fucking give me a house, you can do that. I'm fucking so done with this market. Not even poor. Not even really that poor, but we're still fucking like, it's amazing. Like we're paying the same rent now for what we paid for a massive 5-bedroom house on the hills with a fucking like view. It's just insane what has happened to this market. So anyway, I'm going to go. I love you. Tell your friends, all that stuff, because I get no fucking reach because I actually stand by everything I said. So I'm punished and I get no reach. So please share my stuff. I love you. And no, I won't be telling you their usernames because I'm not a fucking asshole. I love you. Bye.